Good evening, forex traders. How's your weekend? Hope your weekend went well. Hope you enjoyed it. Welcome to another trading week. We are here again, as usual, to analyze the index of the currency pairs in the forex market. Stay tuned as we dive into the market. Now, looking at the weekly time frame, the first pair we'll be taking a look at is the Euro futures or in the Euro index. Now, looking at the weekly time frame, we can see that price has broken this previous point, so coming to the downside. Now, what do we expect when it comes to the daily? Now, when it comes to the daily, we can see that we have 3 points that might be of relevance to us. So we're expecting price to come to either this point, then continuous fall, this point, continuous fall, or the highest point, continuous fall. Now, if these three zones will be broken, then euro will break to the upside. Only then will we have a bullish movement on the euro index. Now, if we move to the 4-hour time frame, what can we see? Now, looking at the 4-hour time frame so far, we can see that we're making series of higher high and higher low. Now, at this point, we're expecting a movement to the upside. So, definitely we'll monitor price around this place, or around this place, or around this place. Haven't seen one or two confirmations, then we expect that the euro will become a little bit weaker because there will be some sell-off. Now, let us move to the next pair. Now, the next pair we have on our list is the British index. Now, what can we see or say about the British index so far? So far, we've made a higher high, higher low, and we've made a previous higher high. But notice that we just broke through, and price is trying to come back to the upside before creating further movement to the downside. Now, what can we say on the weekly time frame so far? Now, on the daily time frame so far, I mean. Now, on the daily time frame, we can see that price is just falling to the downside, and getting to this supply zone, it may facilitate price falling down to the falling back to the downside. Now, but if price will not fall, then we would expect a break of this particular region, and then we will then be bullish on the British pound. Now, let's see what we have when it comes to the 4-hour time frame. Now, if we look at the 4-hour time frame, we can see now that we have something that is of interest to us. Now, this pair just made a higher high, higher low, and if you look at it carefully, it just made equal highs and then broke to the downside. So personally, I would expect price to make one more highs before falling back to the downside. Now, this is what I expect for this week for the GBP. Now, the next one we'll be taking a look at is the Japanese yen. Looking at the weekly time frame, what can we say about this pair? Now, if you remember, in my previous analysis, we were expecting that Japanese yen will fall to maybe this particular position, but it didn't. It continued to fall to the deeply into places whereby we did not expect. So now, what do we expect for this week? Now, we can see that we are getting close to a supply zone around here when it comes to the weekly time frame. We're also getting close to another supply zone right here on the weekly time frame. Now, if we will go to the daily, what can we see? Now, looking at the daily, we notice that we are trying to make some movement to the upside, and these 2 points might should be our reference point so far, because these are supply zones that price may react from before a further movement to the downside. Now, if you look at the 4-hour, what can we say about the 4-hour? Now, if you look at the 4-hour carefully, you will notice that we are now in a bullish market, because this is the downward structure went up, broke the previous low, but at this time broke the previous high, came down and went up. So We expect that price might likely fall a little bit before we see that continuous move to the upside in the British yuan. Now, the next pair we'll take a look at is the Australian dollar. Now, let's go to the weekly to see what the Australian dollar has to offer us. Now, looking at it at this particular point, we can see that this demand zone was able to hold. So, what do we expect? Now, we expect gradual movement to the upside for the um, Australian dollar. Now, if you come to the daily time frame, we notice that we've broken structure here. So we have broken structure to the upside. So what does that mean? Now, that means that we are bullish when it comes to the Australian dollar because a previous high has been broken, then a retracement, and we've broken the previous structural point. So we may expect some little weakness in the Australian dollar this week before further movement to the upside. Now, let us see what the 4-hour time frame is preparing to offer us. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, we are still bullish because we've just broken a structural point previously, and we expect that price will fall a little bit before continuous movement to the upside. So this is what we have for the Australian dollar. Now, the next one is the Canadian dollar. Now, if we go to the weekly time frame, what can we say about the Canadian dollar? Now, we notice that we broke to the downside and we've gotten to a very important supply zone. Now, if this supply zone we hold, we may expect that price should fall maybe to this place in a long-term range. Then, if we go to the daily, what can we see? Now, looking at it so far, price has been bearish until this place whereby there's a break of market structure and we move to the upside. So what do we expect? We expect that price will flow gradually to the downside before continuous movement to the upside. Now let's move to the 4-hour time frame. Now looking at the 4-hour time frame, what can we see? Now we can see that price has made this high, came down, broke the previous high, came down, still broke the previous high, but at this point we fell to the downside and we came here. So what do we expect? We expect further movement to the downside on the 4-hour time frame for the Canadian dollar. So don't be surprised if CAD is a little bit weak. Now, for the Swiss franc, let's see what it is saying on the weekly time frame. Now, if you come to the weekly time frame, you can see that we've been making series of movement to the upside, but this place we broke structure to the downside, and that is a retracement which we were expecting. But at this point in time, we can see that price is flowing gradually to the downside. Now, what can we see on the daily? Now, on the daily, we are bearish because we can see that we keep making lower lows and lower highs. But at this point in time, we can see that price broke the previous low and came to the upside. So what do we expect? Now, if this supply zone will hold, then we expect that price will continue to fall to the downside. If that supply zone won't hold, then price will continue moving to the upside. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, what do we have? Now, we can see that price just tapped into a very important supply zone. If and only if price will break to the downside, breaking the previous lows, then a retracement to the upside, we can sell to the downside. So we expect that the Swiss franc will be a little bit weak if all this will happen in the market. Now, let us move to the next. Now, the next we'll be moving to is the New Zealand dollar. Now, if we go to the weekly, what can we see? Now, in the weekly time frame, we've been bullish because we've not broken the previous high, but we came down. So what do I expect? Now, I expect that no matter what price does, it doesn't leave this particular place before we continue a movement to the upside. Now, what can we see on the daily? Now, we've seen a break in market structure, movement to the upside, retracement to the downside, movement to the upside. Now, if it is possible, we may also expect that price will fall to the downside of this place. Then on the 4 hour, we would expect that price will do something similar as moving to the upside, then flowing price back to this important demand zone. From there, then price is likely to shoot to the upside. Now, this is what I expect for the New Zealand dollar. Okay, now let's move to the dollar index. Let's see what the dollar is telling us. Now, if you look at the dollar index so far, on the weekly time frame, we seem to be coming to this particular supply zone, which we barely tapped into it. Then what else do we expect? I expect the price will fall to the downside. Now, if we go to the daily time frame, what can we see? Now, on the daily time frame, we can see that price went up, came down, went up. Then we've broken this previous point. Yeah. So what do you expect? The price will retrace before falling to the downside on the daily. Now, if you look at the 4 hour time frame, what can we say? Now, this place is a structural point and we moved up. Now, after moving up, we broke to the downside, coming back to retest this place, but price failed to break this region properly, so we have broken this particular point, making us bearish on H4. Now, what do we expect? We expect that price will move to the downside, maybe to this supply zone or somewhere around this region before we sell to the downside. Okay, this is the Mexican peso. Now let's check what we have for the weekly time frame. Now on the weekly time frame, what can we see? Now we notice that price has been ranging at this particular point. So where do we expect our supply to be? We expect this point to be our supply zone. Now if we go to the daily time frame, you can see that price is still within that range. So we expect that price is likely to come to this place. Then we'll see some reaction, fall to the downside, then move to the upside. Now if we go to the 4 hour time frame, we can see clearly that price is moving to the upside. So if price will get to this place, we may see a sell-off from there. Now, these are the analysis we have for the currency index in the market. Now, if you have any question, feel free to inbox me. And also, kindly share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you continue to be profitable as a trader. Thank you very, very much. Have a lovely trading week.